The grand chandelier sparkled above the lavish dining hall, where laughter echoed like the sound of coins clinking in a vault. Mr. Raymond Sinclair, a self-made millionaire known for his quick wit and sharper tongue, lounged in his velvet chair. His tailored suit glimmered under the soft golden lights, the very picture of arrogance mixed with charm. Across the room stood Elena, the maid. Quiet, graceful, and always unnoticed, she dusted the marble shelf with delicate movements, as though afraid to disturb the silence of wealth. Her world was different from his, yet fate had placed her in this extravagant palace, polishing treasures she could never own. Raymond's friends were gathered, sipping champagne and sharing stories of business triumphs. Amid their banter, Raymond's eyes fell on Elena. A mischievous smile curved on his lips. Why not make the evening interesting? He thought. Elena, he called, his deep voice cutting through the chatter like a blade. She froze for a second, startled, then turned and approached, keeping her gaze low out of habit. Yes, sir, she murmured softly. Raymond picked up an ancient manuscript lying on the mahogany table. It was written in an obscure European language, beautiful, yet incomprehensible to most. He held it up dramatically, catching the attention of his friends. See this, he said, waving the parchment. Translate this for me, and, he paused for effect, his grin widening, you get my salary for the entire month. Gasps and laughter erupted from the group. One of the guests chuckled. Raymond, that's cruel. She probably doesn't even know what language that is. Raymond leaned back, smirking. Exactly. That's why it's fun. Elena's heart pounded. His salary, for a whole month. That was more than she could earn in years. She looked at the manuscript, the strange letters dancing before her eyes. The room buzzed with mockery and disbelief, everyone certain she would fail. But then, something in Elena's expression shifted. Her lips curved in the faintest smile, her fingers reaching for the manuscript with quiet confidence. All right, sir, she said calmly, her voice steady as a ripple in still water. I'll translate it. And just like that, the game began. Raymond threw his head back and laughed, the sound rolling through the room like thunder before a storm. His friends joined in, glasses clinking in amusement, their eyes sparkling with curiosity and mockery all at once. Elena, he said, trying to hold back his chuckles, do you even know what language this is? The maid stood calm, holding the manuscript gently as if it were a fragile piece of history. Her expression betrayed nothing. No fear, no hesitation, just quiet determination that made Raymond pause for a brief second. Is she serious? He wondered. It's written in Old Norse, Raymond declared dramatically, waving a hand toward his guests. A language most scholars struggle with. And she thinks she can do it. He looked at Elena again, his grin sharp as a blade. Come on, this should be fun. Impress me. The crowd leaned closer, eager for the entertainment. What if she actually does it? Someone teased. Raymond smirked. If she does, my salary is hers. Every penny. For the whole month. He turned to Elena, his voice dripping with arrogance. Imagine that, Elena. Enough money to buy, well, almost a life. The guests chuckled at his cruel humor, but Elena didn't flinch. Her fingers brushed over the parchment, tracing the ancient letters as if greeting an old friend. For a moment, her lips moved silently, whispering words only she could understand. Raymond leaned forward, curiosity flickering behind his laughter. What is she doing? Finally, Elena looked up, her eyes meeting his with calm confidence. Give me 10 minutes, she said softly, her voice carrying a weight that silenced the room for the first time that evening. Raymond blinked, then burst out laughing again. 10 minutes. 10. Oh, I like your spirit. He snapped his fingers, and a servant brought her a chair. Sit, translate, amaze us. Or make us laugh even harder. As Elena settled into the chair, the room buzzed with whispers and sly smiles. Raymond sipped his wine, watching her with the smug certainty of a man who believed he'd already won. But somewhere deep inside, a strange curiosity stirred, a tiny spark of doubt. Could she actually do it? Elena sat down slowly, the weight of every pair of eyes pressing against her like a heavy cloak. The whispers around the room were sharp and cold, like little arrows of doubt. Raymond lounged in his chair, swirling the deep red wine in his glass, a smug smile tugging at his lips. The manuscript lay open on the polished mahogany table, its yellowed pages filled with symbols and words most people would consider gibberish. But to Elena, they weren't just letters. They were history, her history. Her father had been a linguistics professor. From the time she could read, she had been surrounded by languages, Greek, Latin, Norse, and a dozen more. She had grown up in a tiny house where words were magic and books were treasures. Life had changed after he died. Poverty had pushed her into servitude, but those languages had stayed, tucked away in her mind like secret jewels. Raymond didn't know any of that. To him, she was just a maid, his maid, someone who cleaned floors and carried trays. And that ignorance made this moment deliciously ironic. Elena drew a deep breath and began. Her lips moved silently at first, decoding the structure, the rhythm of the Old Norse words. The ancient tongue was tricky, full of symbols that could twist meaning if misread. But Elena's eyes danced over them with precision, her mind piecing together fragments like a master solving a puzzle. Minutes ticked by. The laughter that had filled the room earlier faded into murmurs. Guests exchanged uneasy glances. Was she actually doing it? Raymond tapped his fingers on the armrest, his confident grin shrinking just a little. 5 minutes left, he announced, trying to sound amused, but his voice lacked its earlier bite. Elena didn't answer. Her hand moved steadily, translating the lines onto a fresh sheet of paper in clear, flowing script. Word after word spilled out effortlessly, until finally, with a calm certainty, she placed the pen down. "It's done," she said, her tone quiet but commanding, like a bell ringing in a silent chapel. Every head turned. Raymond froze, staring at the paper as if it were a bomb ready to explode. "Read it," Elena said simply, her eyes locking on his. And for the first time that night, the millionaire didn't laugh. The room fell into a hush so deep that even the crackle of the fireplace seemed loud. Raymond stared at the sheet of paper like it was some kind of trick. Slowly, almost reluctantly, he picked it up and began to read. The words rolled off his tongue, hesitant at first, then faster as his eyes widened. The Old Norse passage, now perfectly translated into flawless English, spoke of strength, honor, and wisdom, values that felt ironic in this glittering hall of arrogance. His throat tightened. It wasn't just accurate, it was beautiful. Elegant phrasing, perfect interpretation. No mistakes. Raymond looked up, his face pale, his usual smirk gone. His guests leaned forward, breathless, waiting for his reaction. "You actually did it," he whispered. Elena stood still, her hands folded in front of her, calm as a queen in her court. "I told you I could," she said softly. Raymond laughed nervously, but it came out hollow. You must have memorized this, or someone helped you." "No one helped me," Elena replied, her voice firm. "You made a promise, Mr. Sinclair. Your salary for this month, every penny of it, is mine." The guests gasped. The air buzzed with shock and excitement. Raymond's pride battled with his words, but his own voice from earlier replayed in his mind. "Translate this, and you get my salary." A promise is a promise. Still, the humiliation burned. He reached for his checkbook with a stiff hand. "Fine," he muttered, scribbling zeros that made some of the guests' jaws drop. "You've got guts, Elena. I'll give you that." But just as he extended the check toward her, Elena said something that froze him in place. "I don't want your money," she said. Raymond blinked. "What? I want something more valuable," Elena continued, her gaze piercing through his like a blade. "A seat in your company. A chance to use my mind, not just my hands." The room erupted. Gasps. Murmurs. Raymond stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. The maid who dusted his shelves was negotiating like a CEO. And for the first time in years, Raymond Sinclair was speechless. Because deep down, he knew she deserved it.